Okay, haven't made a recording in a while, so yeah, we'll see how we go. There's just been far too many for me to be able to choose which one I'm going to do next. It's coming thick and fast, the PSYOPs, because the point is to capture you wherever you are in your self-congratulatory stage of development, and then try and keep you there. So this one's for all the people who want to learn about how you can be captured. So here we are. This is obviously most people know, who this guy is. If you sort of believe you're a truther or a freedom fighter, this guy features quite highly in the rotation of conversation. And so I'm just going to go through how people get used. These figures are here to actually capture you at your current level of awareness, and then try and trap you there so you don't keep evolving and looking further, because the whole point is that the whole structure understands, those dark priests know that you're going to want to evolve, right? So their job is to just keep making you believe that you're evolving freely without any influence outside, and then get really sort of impressed with yourself. And as soon as you have that self-congratulatory energy, that's when you're capturable, right? So these are the people who think that they're red-pilled and they know what's going on, right? They've captured you. So we're going to take a look at how that works. So the best way for me to do that is to actually just show how it gets done in real time. So let's have a look at this video here. Oh no, actually before I do that, I forgot about this. I want to just grab this one section. This is from Yuri Bezmenov. So he came out and told everyone in the US how they've been controlled, and it got ignored because it's too sensational. People just won't believe that they're able to be controlled that easily. But I want to grab one section, and that is a person who's demoralized is unable to assess true information. So each and every individual who believes that they're red-pilled is actually black-pilled, and they prove it by where they're stuck and where they get captured. And that's why they're unable to access new information that they don't want to learn, because then it's going to knock them out of their comfort of that identity that they've created with where they are in their current stage of development, right, of conscious awareness. And when you get into that congratulatory space, that's when you can be captured, and that's what the Dark Priest class are looking for. They're looking for signs of that, and that's why they send out these kind of things, right? But I'm going to get back to that demoralized section in later videos, because that's quite important. That's a pivotal part of how the whole structure runs, and it goes back centuries, where people were captured centuries and centuries ago, and they've just inherited the same belief structures through generations. But for this today, for the purpose of this, I'm just going to go straight into the WF, what do I call it, PSYOP that's been run here.
It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question. Yep.
Okay, so right there, that's the reverse, right? Saying, so what they're doing is they're getting both sides who work for the same Dark Priest class, right? They don't show you who the real Dark Priests are. That's not how it works, right? All these faces, they're just their puppets, right? Schwab, the one you think's pulling the strings, no, he's just a front man, because that's how politics works. They need to put someone in the way for you to draw all your attention onto, like it's an individual that can do all these things, right? None of these things could happen unless you gave your consent to it, right? And they manufacture that consent artificially without you realizing how they're doing it, and that's capturing you in your current stage of where you think you are at and that you're above it, right? That's how they do it. I know that doesn't mean much right now. So this whole thing, so what do? They get two, people that work for the same team, right, trying to look like they're against each other. So then you think there's something legitimate happening here, some kind of power struggle. No, it's just the show they're putting on. So you stay captured in this system like there's some kind of remedy in it. That's the point, right? So he's now saying, oh, you're calling Trump a dictator? Well, that's laughable, because that's what you are, right? So that's that classic trench warfare. And then you just get to pick a side, who's right. And you get drawn into that energy, you have no idea what's really happening. That's the point of the game.
And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president, is going to take on the power of the elites, which I mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here, the very reason that I'm here at Davos.
Okay, so he says whoever's going to be, the president is going to take on the power of the elites. Now I want you to think about the real absurdity of that. Right? The whole system of having someone be your master, your political master, is an elitist style of thinking, right? And that's you as the individual giving up your power to someone else to make decisions, for you because you don't want to take the responsibility for that. Already that's a power differential there. So how can someone who's already in a structure that's designed to be in charge of other people take on that very structure? It doesn't actually hold any water, right? It's a logical fallacy. It can't happen. But because people don't understand how to actually make definitions, like get real clear meanings of what words mean, they get sucked in, right? So if you understand the principle behind what he said, you can see it's an outright lie. But anyway, we're going to keep going and watching how more and more of the lies just keep rolling out. And because, unfortunately, too many people are invested in the Saviour being outside of themselves, which is the whole state of being demoralised, right? If you believe there's an external Saviour, you are already demoralised. Now, just to give a bit more clarity to the word demoralised, it means to lack moral clarity, not character. Well, I guess one and two are the same thing, really. To lack the capacity to be clear on what is moral and what is immoral. Right? That's what it means to be demoralised.
Is to explain to many people in this room and who are watching, with all due respect, nothing personal, but that you're part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y.
Now, he's doing the same thing. That's the most humorous part, right? He's actually part of the same structure that's doing the very same thing. That's presupposing that he has the knowledge to speak for everyone who's not him. Where did that come from? Does everyone who's not him agree with each other? So how does he just now take it upon himself to say what the average man really thinks? How does he know what every individual man thinks? Does every individual man or woman agree with one another? So how do you now sort of just bunch them into this collective and say that you know exactly what they think and what they want, right? There's another mind trick right there.
Take immigration. Elites tell us that open borders and even illegal immigration are okay. The average person tells us in the United States that both rob them of the American way of life.
Now, how do you know that they're not setting that up on purpose, right? They're not setting up this illegal immigration, open borders, just drag people in because they need to keep you in that space where someone else needs to fix it, right? So this bunch of criminals, they're the ones that are the problem. But the new bunch that we're going to elect in, because we're terrified, we can't figure it out for ourselves. We don't have the capacity to do that. We're not inherently autonomous beings. No, we are good slaves that need a master to fix our problems for us. We just need a kind of master. That's what basically is being said here, right? As soon as they say someone speaks for you, that's the psyop right there. And unfortunately, it still works. And if it didn't, they wouldn't do it. So while you're sitting here going, oh yeah, that sounds great, you've just allowed it to work. And then you're actually becoming part of the problem. We are all inherently capable of solving our own problems. If we start looking at it's too big for me to fix, right? Well, who's the individual who can fix it? What species do they come from? Do they have any more special knowledge than you, right? The difference is the will to care, to want to do something about it and do some real deep consideration from a place that's going to, and solutions that are going to be created to work for all people. That's been demoralised out of most of people, that they can't even envision that. As soon as they can't envision that, or they don't have a way to conceive it or use their imagination, that's been killed. That's when you start calling on someone else other than you. That's the entire system. It's designed to really fool you into believing that someone else knows better than you. You're not good enough to work it out yourself. And that's why this guy's here. He's there still pushing that same belief system. That's the underlying music that's been hidden here.
They're right. President Trump will take that on.
There you go. There's your hero savior. He's going to do it for you, right? It's showing you right there. You don't need to think about it, right? It's all going to be done for you. So you're like, my savior.
The half of the average American. Elites also tell us that public safety isn't a problem in big American cities. Just travel to New York or Washington or Dallas, Texas. The average person will tell you that the lack of public safety damages not just the American way of life, but their life. President Trump will take that on.
There you go. More saviors taking it on for you. You aren't part of the problem. The way you think and the way you believe, what that actually allows to come into existence by you believing that you're actually not good enough to work out problems for yourself, that you need someone with an authority or delegated authority to do it for you because you fear the consequences of getting it wrong. That's that immature child mentality that they keep needing to cultivate in order to keep that difference of power. That's all that's standing between you living free and remaining a slave. And this guy is here to make sure that you keep believing that you need someone else to do it for you. He's telling you right in your face.
Thirdly, I guess the favorite at the World Economic Forum is climate change. Elites tell us that we have this existential crisis with so-called climate change, so much so that climate alarmism is probably the greatest cause for mental health crisis in the world. The solutions, the average person know, based on climate change are far worse and more harmful and cost more human lives, especially in Europe during the time that you need heating, than do the problem and the problems themselves.
So again, if you really pay attention to the way he's using his words, he's conscripting the average person, like he knows what the average person, who is the average person, what does that actually mean, right? But it creates this idea that there is this like heartbeat, of people in agreement that they, he knows what it is, he's capturing it, he gets to be the delegated spokesman who speaks on behalf of this collective. Like I said earlier, like everyone agrees. It's when you show me 100 people come in the room and agree with each other. Show me when that's ever happened, right? But here he is taking it upon himself, right? Self-elected, I'm like the delegate that's delegated to do this for you. I'm the benevolent I have the benevolent understanding of what the right way to go about things is, and all I need to do is make you believe that I speak for you. It's that whole old game. There's nothing new here, right? It's just being done in your face. It's whether you're willing to see it and do something about it.
Fourth, two more here, Robin. Okay. The fourth, China. The number one adversary, not just to the United States, but to free people on planet Earth.
Like, think about it. What is China? It's basically some invented, territory with its own ruling class. Are you going to say that every single individual that lives in that territory agrees with the ruling class? So again, they make it like there's this big bogey man that comprises of an entire population of people, right? That they all think the same in unison, and all they want to do is is find a way to, destroy what you believe you have, right? Which is essentially what your plantation owners on your particular territory where you live have decided, is the way to live, how they want to control you. So you want to protect your version of slavery over them coming and imposing, their ruling class coming and imposing their version upon you. Like you think about the absurdity of what's actually being said here. And if you can't figure out principle, these things will not be obvious to you. That's why if you've ever watched enough of the videos that I do, it's always principle based for a reason. Because until you understand that, you cannot grasp reality for how it is. Not how you want it to be, but for how it actually is, and have a dispassionate connection to it. Right? You don't have this agenda where you want to feed your biases or prejudices. That can't be possible once you grasp principle. And until people are willing to do that, you're going to fall for more shyster stuff like this.
Not only do we at Davos not say that, we give the Chinese Communist Party a platform. Count on President Trump ending that nonsense. And fifth, as we sit here.
Just before I go ahead, so now he's basically saying, your master, political master, is going to take care of this bad bogeyman while you remain enslaved under this set of political master's rules. That's okay, because it's your master, like it's your plantation. That's like the slaves going and bickering amongst each other about which plantation owner is the kinder one. That's what this guy's pushing, if you really understand what's being said here.
Another supranational organization, the World Health Organization, is discussing foisting gender ideology upon the global south.
Now, how do you know this all wasn't done on purpose, right? This pushing this gender to make it, because people are starting to figure out that this entire structure is bent and it needs to go down. But the structure, which is run by a very small people who are the true benefactors, and then they have their whole legion of minions that sit under them that are happy to be dominated, controlled, just as long as they get enough of the crumbs for themselves, right? That's the sickness that's running here. So how do you know that this whole, like that you can't heat your house with fossil fuels, like this climate change stuff and the gender fluidity, the open borders. How do you know they haven't just hit you with as many things, the COVID stuff, as they possibly can to stress the hell out of you, so you can't possibly actually go to the cognitive part of your processing mind, which is the frontal cortex, and start deciphering, what's a psyop and what's real. How do you know that's not done on purpose? And then make you believe that there's this like group of baddies, and now there's this group of goodies that are coming to try and fight that for you on your behalf. If you really think about that, that's absurd, because how can someone from your own species who has no superpower, right? This whole Trump, 5D chess player BS, and his wife's a Palladian, and come on guys, seriously, really think about it. These are just more sophisticated ways to suck you in, that you're not good enough as you are to figure things out for yourself. Yet you are endowed with the same moral faculties as everybody else. And this is all just using a mind virus, right, to impregnate itself, to step over your capacity to use your intuition to guide you as to how to live in alignment with the true nature of how peace can happen and prosperity. That's its intended purpose. Because anyone who understands the Hermetic principles, the 7 Hermetic principles, will know the first one is the law of mentalism, right? He who captures the mind captures the perception of reality. And if you can capture one's perception of reality, their actions will follow suit. That's what these guys are here to do. They're here to create a theatre that there's two opposing forces when there really isn't. It's no different to, a Liberal or Labor candidate, or Conservative, or what's the other one? Left wing, right? They're still working for the same team, right? They're just giving you two options, but the outcome's always the same. And that is, you've got a set of masters deciding what's going to happen to you and the quality of your life and how it's going to be appropriated.
These are practices that are under review, if not being rejected, by countries in Northern Europe. The new president, especially if it's President Trump, will, as you like to say, trust the science. He will understand the basic biological reality of manhood and womanhood. And do you know why? Not because of retribution, not because he's a dictator, but because he has the power of the American people behind him.
Yeah, how did he get the power of the American people behind him? Does anyone actually know that? Is it voting in elections? Is that how it's done? Really? Or is that the psyop? Because how can you now vote for a set of political masters to dictate to you by their will and force, right? Because they create these edicts they call legislation, where they have the right to take your hard-earned labour and appropriate it for what they choose, not what you choose, for what they choose. Now, how is that you giving your consent to him acting in your name? It's just that people don't have any other way to conceive how we can live together, so they just go, well, that's the best of the worst, so we'll pick that. Even Churchill said democracy's, crap. But what else better is there, right? That's all the mind trick. It's constantly, well, if you've got no better ideas, well, we're just going to have to rely on this then, aren't we? Right? That's what they want you to believe. This is all just pumping that back in, just feeding that beast again. So, they can't have you leave the pen. They've got to shut out all the exits. They can't have them unsealed, right? And these people are sent to do that, right? To create this sort of antagonistic energy behind the two opposing forces, which are the same. They just make it look like they are. These are all drinking buddies, buddy. That's the sad reality. Unless you're willing to see it, you're going to remain in this space of enslaved, thinking that there is some kind of savior coming, this clandestine group that are working in the shadows to make sure everything's going to be wonderful. And then what? They decide how things are going to be run. So you're going to have a kind of master for a while, but eventually it's going to road back to where it is right now.
And it's connected to Senator Portman's excellent point. that in addition to needing a vigorous executive, we look forward to having the popular will inform both the House and Senate in 2025 to pass laws on all of those issues and many others. Ultimately,
so just before that, pass laws. How can you pass a law? A law is already something that's in existence that dictates how reality operates. That's what a law is. What they're passing is their edicts. Because why? Because you have voted and they've taken that as consent they get to decide, whoever's in that position, how to dominate and control you the way that they choose in that moment, right? And so you're always going to be stuck in that thing that someone's going to fix it for you because you're too afraid as an individual to take responsibility for yourself for thinking about what would be the way that you would go about doing it. And then how would you organise amongst yourselves? No different to how you organise yourself when you go to a dinner party, right? What are you doing? You're not asking for permission from masters. You have your own ideas about what's going to make it wonderful. Well, it's no different. I'm just simplifying it, but at the principle level, it's exactly the same. So if you're capable of running your day-to-day affairs and organising a party, for example, like a celebration, you're able to organise any aspect of your life. And that's what you need to start looking at that real simplistic way, guys. It's simple, but it's not easy. Big difference. The answers are simple, but the actual application is quite difficult because the mind virus is constantly being reinforced. That's what this guy's here to do.
Robin, I think President Trump, if in fact he wins a second term, is going to be inspired by the wise words of Javier Milei, who said that he was in power.
Big important word. He was in power. So that there tells you everything. That he has power over you because you allow it, because you refuse to take your own power and be your own master. So he's perpetuating that. He's giving you a reason why you've gone and done that, because you aren't good enough to take power for yourself, right? That someone has to take power over you. Otherwise there's going to be what? Chaos. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe there's going to be chaos. Just like, how many people when you are waiting in line, how many, times do you need to have that dictated to? Or are people quite capable of waiting in line without there being any major issues, right? Because we constantly need police all the time, every time we lined up anywhere, if we were totally incapable of it, right? So just little basic giveaways of everyday behaviour that shows that we are totally capable of self-organising, right? You need to be willing to see it when it's in front of you. And far too little people, because the mind virus gets in the way, are able to spot it when it's there right in their face in reality. Now check this out. This is my favourite quote, and that's the reason why I made this video.
Not to guide sheep, but to awaken lions.
Okay, that is beautiful. Right there. So he's in power not to guide sheep. So he's a sheep herder who's been given the power, right, by the sheep to herd them, but he's not there for that. He's there to transform these sheep into lions. How is that going to be possible? Think about that properly. I'm going to go that into a little more depth.
That's what the average American and the average free person on planet Earth wants out of leaders.
Really? Honestly think about that. How does he know what the average person wants from a leader? How does he know that? Has he interviewed every single individual? So how can he say that he can speak for them as a collective? Right, so he's taking it upon himself, right? Self-entitled, again, to speak for people he's never met, knows nothing about, and then he just reckons he's captured the pulse of what it is that they're important. A leader has got nothing to do with legislating what you can and can't do, whether you need a license or a permit, how much you need to pay for stuff. That's not leadership. That's dictatorship, right? So he's gone out and said, everything he said Trump is not, just take out the not and he's telling you what he is, right? And so that's the beautiful part. Now, I'm going to move to this other video, right? Really good psyop. Too many people fell for it, so we're going to have a quick look at it. If I can get it up. Here we go.
I appreciate the World Economic Forum providing me the opportunity to be on this stage and...
Look at that statue, guys. What am I saying? Look at that tattoo, guys, right on the neck. Could be a giveaway. Can't tell what it is, but, it's worth taking a look at. Anyone got any ideas? Love to hear it. So this guy has walked into the Viper's den, now he's about to slag off the Vipers. What are the chances that the Vipers are going to just let that happen? Really think about it.
Say, fuck you, Klaus Schwab, and fuck your New World Order. We, the people, were born free, we will stay free, and you and all of your globalist friends, including everyone in this room, can go fuck yourself.
So you don't think that's staged? No, not a chance, right? He just randomly was able to get the stage, in this big auditorium full of Vipers, and he's totally going to just leave with no problem. And that's not staged. Like, come on, guys. Really start thinking about it. It's just part of the game, guys. They want you to they want you to think that they're panicking, that you actually are in the ascendancy. Because if you think that, you're going to keep taking these solutions that these people, like we just watched a moment ago, are going to dish out for you. Right? Until you can see what's really happening here, you're never going to stand up for yourself and then start self-organizing around the truth. You're not, because you're still going to believe there's these two antagonistic forces, and you just have to pick the right one. That's it. They just want you to believe that you got to pick the right leader, which is not a real leader, but the right slave master. Not that you're going to see it that way. That's the point. That's why they keep doing this. They just keep making it more sophisticated, right? So you're catching out people in that state when they're in a high distress, because the panic is high in most people when they see what's coming down the pike. So how are they going to capture them? They're going to capture them in that panic state where they're not thinking from the frontal cortex. They're thinking from flight, fright, or freeze. And that's not a place where you're actually clear of mind, right? And very few people that I've met are able to even notice when that's happening to them. Right? They still think they're actually in charge of their decisions without realizing how trauma really works. And so I'm just going to finish off on what he said earlier, the first guy that spoke about the lions, that we're not here to guide sheep, but to awaken lions. Well, let's have a look at what a real lion is, right? Does a lion symbolize docility, right? Relinquishing its power for self-reliance by waiting to be rescued from hyenas as they rip its flesh off one piece at a time. Now think about it. You as an individual have been having your flesh ripped off one piece at a time by this whole governmental structure that's been in place for centuries, right? It's been one version or another. It could have been like emperors, for example. Could have been pharaohs. Do you know what I mean? Kings. Doesn't really matter. It's still a dominant structure where there's a superior class and an inferior class, and then stages in between, right? And because they need their cronies to do the work for them. So that's what's been happening to us. We've been born in captivity, right? We've just not known it. And so that's all we know. We know people relinquish their power all the time. We think that's normal, right? That's what culture is. That's our custom. That's our tradition. So we don't recognize that we're being torn apart by the hyenas. Well, is that what a lion does? Does the lion not recognize that? Or do they recognize it straight away? How often do you see a lion just sitting there waiting to be torn to bits? They don't. They get into action straight away. So how can does the lion wait for some other rescuer to come along and say, oh no, look, I'll help you raise you into this beast of what you're meant to be? Is that what it does? No. It intuitively activates, right? Is a lion one with the courage, discipline, and willpower to act of its own volition, to defend and liberate itself? So how many people in this freedom, what they call a freedom movement, truth seeker movement, whatever terms they give themselves, these congratulatory terms, right? This is all self-indulgence again. They limit themselves by these terms. How many of them can you honestly say have the willpower, courage, and self-discipline to be able to see the truth for what it is and then actually speak it? Not this pretend version where they're just going to the black pill, the rabbit holes, and just focusing on the symptoms, but the root cause, right, of their own destructive belief systems. How many of them have that willpower to actually call that out? Bugger all. Where do you see it in the so-called truth media? You don't. They're always focusing on the black pill. And until each individual takes responsibility for understanding the base level knowledge that everyone's required to have of what objective morality is and how that works as part of natural law, we're going to remain enslaved, whether you like it or not. It's irrelevant. Your opinion on this doesn't change reality, because if it did, every single revolution in history would have actually had mankind living in freedom, but it never did. So there's your evidence, guys. If you don't want to see it, that's fine. That's your choice. However, if you've come here to learn something that you didn't consider, maybe this has something for you. Now I'm just going to finish off by showing you where to look if you start wanting to start activating and start taking action in the real world that actually can have impact. And it's about understanding what an actual correct constitution is, what it's designed for. It's not designed to do anything to protect you or anything. It's designed to give you the mental and moral clarity, to draw your attention, to reorient that which you already know, right? To reorient it to the truth. That's a true meaning of the Constitution, and there's only one still in effect today. And there's only a small aspect of that, of the articles in the Magna Carta that are the Constitution. The rest are not. It's only a small aspect. And so if that's what you're interested in, I can just point where you can go look and start learning and then activating. Okay, so if you're looking to find some kind of guidance about moral principle and that there is actually a structure in place that was built on moral principle, where the system of governance, which just means system of public servants and administration of how services will be delivered to the people equitably in order to advance the quality of all lives equally. This site has got plenty on it. I'm just going to quickly, I'm not going to go too much into it because I've done plenty of other videos about that. But here we go, it's already standing on principle. You can see that, unifying our community. It talks about the 1901 Australia Crime Punishment Manifesto, which is the 1901 Commonwealth of Australia Constitution. So it talks about why that's a fraud and how that's just more enslavement. And then you've got participate in our police letter campaign. If you want to do that, you can click on that, take you right there, subscribe to the mailing list. As you go back up here, you can see all the different places you can look into. And so anyway, that's for you to discover in your own time, but just giving you a resource, it's magnacarta1215.com. There you go.